Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, Piano Practice Partner. Thank you for joining. I hope you enjoyed the last lesson where we were looking at adding extra notes to our chords. So we're taking our basic chords and we're adding things like sevenths and ninths. We didn't really look at like adding fourths properly, but we understood the concept of what would happen if we were adding a fourth or like a second. And we could really hear and understand how adding a seventh changes the chord, and then maybe adding a sixth. Okay, let's try adding a fourth. Let's try adding a second or a ninth. Ooh, we're just playing C major there and then adding different added notes to give us different musical information. So this feels very different from which is a flattened seventh. Or this feels very different from which has a fourth in it. Oh, when the saints. Hello. Honestly, the amount of stuff your ears can hear just by simply playing around. I digress. Today in the practice along session for that last lesson, if you haven't watched the last lesson, then maybe go back and watch that and then come back here for the practice along. We're going to be slowly building up back through some of those sevenths and the ninths and then the 2-5-1. And we're going to take the 2-5-1 as our basis for the practice today. But what I would like to do is I'd like to add some movements. We can really hear the broken down version of the chord as well as the chord in itself. Because in the last lesson we were playing this sort of stuff. So I think what would be nice to start with is by playing the 2-5-1 in its basic form. So playing the root note in the right hand and the left hand. And adding a seventh. And let's just refresh our memories as to where the seventh is and how to find it in two different ways. There's no right or wrong way, it's just preference and how your brain works. So we know for the C major scale, it's 1 to 8, C to C. So if this is 1 and this is 8, all we'd do to find the seventh is we'd move one note down from 8. So this would be our seventh. Now there's another way of finding where the seventh is without sort of counting up to the 8 and then one note down. What you can do is you can think to where your root note is, which is the C down here, the 1, and think down one note, it's B, but then just play it in the top. And you might think, oh, but why would I need to do that? Because surely that's simpler to do. Well, say you weren't playing it in this configuration and you're playing your C in an inversion. Then, oh, where's your seventh? Well, I suppose you've still got your eighth here. But you could think, well, if the root is C, I can just look to where C is and think one note down. So here's a C inversion with the seventh in it still. So we're going to play a 2-5-1 as C in the basic position, but we're going to add the seventh on each one. So if this is my 2 chord, the D, well, we know our seventh is going to be the one note below the D, so the C. And then if this is our 5 chord, one note below the G is the F. So we're going to add it up here. And then we've just talked about the C, so. So we're just going to get used to playing that for, I'm going to say, a minute. Nice and simple, because we did this in the last lesson, so it's going to be nice and easy for us just to warm up playing this for 1 minute long, and then we're going to add something pretty cool and fun. So 1 minute on the clock, away we go. 1 minute absolutely flies by. So hopefully that was nice and simple and easy to begin with to warm ourselves up. So now we're going to look at spreading the chord, because so far in most of our practice and playing, we've been playing the chord as block notes. And if we've added movement, it's usually been putting some movement in the bass and playing just 2 lots of chords with the hand, or keeping a steady pulse. We're used to pressing all the keys at the same time. So what I want us to do with this now, because of this added beautiful 7th note, is I want us to play up like that. So we're trying to keep consistent spread between notes, and obviously you can go a bit faster if you want. Or you can go slow. I'm just repeating it here. I'm making this up, but what I'm looking for within the practice is that the rate of the notes falling between the spread of the chord is even, so it's not going. See how it sounds a bit disjointed? We're trying to get whatever we choose tempo-wise and rhythm-wise to do, that it's the same between each note. There's consistency between every time you play. But so when we spoke about rhythm a little while ago now, we'll get onto this properly soon. But the 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 is consistent. So whatever you choose to do, however fast or slow you choose to do it in this experiment, in this practice through, try and keep that right hand spread of notes nice and even. And again, all we're doing is nothing complicated, is we're just playing that chord that we've just been playing, the 1, 3, 5 and the 7th, but instead of playing them all at the same time, we're playing the notes individually up the scale. And then you can choose to put the root note in, just to add a bit of depth and dimension. I'm playing the 1 twice round just because I'm thinking of this in sort of a block of 4, because that feels natural to me. And obviously there's only 3 chords we're playing, so I've got to play one of them twice. So you can choose to cover this, or you can do something different. Anyway, let's do that for 2 minutes and see how we get on. Have fun. Away we go. There's no rush. Take this as fast or as slow as you need. Aim for consistency within the spread on the right hand notes. Last 20 seconds, keep going. There we go. How was that? 2 minutes done. Really quick. Quite fun to add that motion. And what's really lovely about it is we're helping our ear build up the recognition of the chord, but then this 7th note, we're really hearing the breakdown of the chord and then the added note. My watch is telling me to move. I am moving. I'm moving my fingers. That counts. Now, in your own time, we won't look at this now, but if that felt nice and fun and comfortable, you can think about going up and down. So there, we're just moving up. But we could go. So in your own time, practice something like this. If you wish, you can even add octaves in the bass. Not very even on the right hand there. I haven't practiced it. This is me making it up, you know. But this is I think the joy of this instrument, and what I'm starting to discover with you is that we're taking a basic concept, and then with all the other stuff we've been learning, and with curiosity, we're then going, okay, what else can I do with this? If I can do that, can I come back down? If I can do bass on the left hand, can I do just octave in the bass at the same time? And then treating it as a game, a little puzzle of discovery. What can you add? What can you create and discover? There's no real right or wrong. There are ways of doing things, and obviously there are certain things that are going to really help us, but it should be about play and discovery. You'll know if something feels right or feels wrong, or sounds right or sounds wrong. And what will hopefully keep us motivated to keep playing is this joy of discovery and allowing ourselves to be surprised by what we come up with. Great. Enough waffle, let's move on. So we've got our basic position 2-5-1 with the added 7th. So now let's spend some time looking at the 7th and the 9th. To remind ourselves of how we found the 2-5-1 with the added 9th, do you remember what we did? We took away having to play the root with the right hand and just left our left hand to deal with that. So instead of playing the root here, we shifted everything up. So now we're playing the root here, the 3, the 5, the 7th, and then we had our pinky free to play the 9th. What's wrong about that? That's right, I'm playing the root in the left and the right. So instead of here, we'd then shift everything up. So the thumb then replaces this index finger. And then, because I'm not playing the root in my right. So just to recap. So we're going to play 2.5 minutes, just getting used to shifting from the root position up. So we're playing the 1 in the left hand, the 3, the 5, the 7th, the 9th in the right hand. So let's just get used to that for 2.5 minutes. And obviously if that becomes a little bit easier for you, you can then add a little bit of motion onto it. So again, if you want to break down the chord a bit more so you can hear what's going on. You can do what we were doing in the previous thing and just practicing breaking it down and hearing the difference of the notes. So 2.5 minutes. Oh, here we go. Go as slow as you need to. If it becomes confusing, just stop and break down how to play that chord and then add the 7th and the 9th on top. Final minute remaining. There we go. How was that? Cool. So I noticed there's a lot of movement. A lot of movement. Moving from that 2 to that 5. And actually I tried to put in some movement on the bass. So I've been trying to play with the bass, this sort of octave thing. Also putting in this extra note here. I just stumbled across it and I quite like it. Feels sort of, it has a nice feel and rhythm to it. This is not me saying you should be doing the same, but what it is leading me to say is that takes quite a lot of concentration for me to be able to. It's fine doing it on its own because again it's a sequence, but as soon as I start putting them both together, it takes a lot of concentration for me to be able to figure out what the hell I'm doing with my right hand and my left hand, and also try and talk at the same time. So what would make this easier was if my left hand wasn't moving around so much. So let's look at how we did our inversions, which is what we looked at in the last lesson. So we took this, we figured out what the notes were, and we realized that to play the chord with the 7th and 9th, for the 5th, we just had to move these 2 fingers down. So from the C and the E then becomes B and D. And then for the 1, we figured out that we'd actually just move the bottom 2 fingers down. So this G and this A becomes this E and G. So we start with our 2 chord, and then we just move the top 2 fingers down, and then we just move the bottom 2 fingers up, and then restart. So let's just do that because that's so much easier, and it means that now if I was trying to do something more complicated on the bass, see, instantly my brain's like, oh, that's so much easier because I'm not having to think about picking up my right hand and moving it so much, and I can focus on the left hand pattern. Really cool. We don't have to do that. If you feel like you're there and you want a challenge, go for it. But for now, we are just concentrating on actually just getting this nice 2-5-1 with the 7th and 9th, but with this inversion now, so it's easier for us. I'll let you decide how you want to play that, but we are focusing on playing this inversion, nice and simple, this 2-5-1 with the 7th and the 9th. So just to quickly recap, we're playing our 2 chord with this spread, and then we're just moving these top 2 fingers down, and then these bottom 2 fingers down. Beautiful. 2.5 minutes. Here we go. Remember, go as slow as you need to. Keep it as simple as you can to help you understand before starting to embellish. Final minute remaining. Last 30 seconds. Keep going. Oh man, I was having a great time there. I don't know about you, but I was really starting to enjoy that. So for the last bit of the practice along session, what I'd like to do is I'd like to combine the two things from previously. So when we were playing the primary position with the seventh, and we were working up in this sort of like arpeggio, and then we spoke about going up and down, I'd like to apply some of that to this inversion, because we're not having to move as much, so hopefully it'll be easier for our brains and fingers to understand. So we're still going to be playing this sequence, but I would like us to experiment and for you to just have loads of fun and curiosity about what happens if you play a chord, and then before we move on to the next one, we're just going to take that chord and we're then going to play some random notes within it, using that same hand position. So we're not having to like leave where we're playing. We're not having to think, oh, what notes am I going to play? We're just playing that chord, and then we might go and then switch to the next chord, play some random notes, and then go to the one, and then we'll just repeat to the two again, and then to the five, and the one, back to the two. So there's no requirement to be complicated. There's no requirement to generate loads of material. All we're having to do is we're playing the chord, and then from those notes that we're already playing, we're just choosing to play a few random ones. You see what happens though? Suddenly, by picking out these random notes in this chord, we are starting to play melody. We're starting to hear melody on top of the chords we're creating. So this is just taking exactly what we've just been learning and just been practicing, and I just want you to play with playing the chord and then picking out a few random notes and then moving on. And we're going to do that for a full, I keep pressing the wrong thing. And do that for a full 3 minutes. Here we go. Have fun, everybody. If adding melody on top confuses you, just momentarily come back to playing the chords in their simple inversions first, and then add the melody back on top. Go as slow as you need to. Keep exploring, keep having fun. Final minute remaining. Final 20 seconds. Keep going. Wow. I hope you had fun. That was really interesting and great to get lost in playing chords and then just adding some simple melody on top. It's 9 weeks in, and I feel like I'm starting to understand more of this, and it's great that we can do the theory, but also have a little play. That's really simple, just to go, I'm playing a chord, then I'm just playing some notes within the chord. We can take that back to like easy, even taking the basis of Let It Be that we learnt before. What happens if we just do some of that? Man, all of a sudden, it wasn't overly complex. It's probably already a song like that. But fun that you can just take what we've been learning and immediately play. That wasn't pre-planned. That wasn't sort of thought out beforehand. I just started playing and seeing what came out. Really cool, everybody. I hope that made sense. I hope my sort of excitement when getting sidetracked didn't throw you too much. But I'm having a great time here. I hope you are too. Thank you for joining me on this practice session. Feel free to comment down below. Let me know how you're getting on, your wins of the week, where you're practicing from in the world. And if you hadn't already done so, please consider subscribing so we can grow this channel into a beautiful behemoth of musical geniuses. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week.